My husband shook our 4-month-old daughter while screaming she was a brat after I asked him to help with one night feeding, so I documented everything. That was 2 years ago. He still sends letters from prison to an address where no one lives anymore. I think I'm losing it, and I've been stuck inside with a crying infant for so long that maybe I really have gone nuts. I'm 25 years old. I first met my husband when I was 20, and he was 30. Even though we had a pretty significant age gap, our relationship always seemed to work. I liked that he was older and could guide me through life in a way someone my own age couldn't. He was very smart and charming, and I fell in love with him fast. We worked in an office together. He was one of the supervisors, and I was just a summer intern, but we ended up falling for each other despite our differences. My husband proposed after we had been dating for about 8 months, and I said yes since I thought he was the most perfect man a woman could ask for. I had always known him to be this level-headed, mature guy, so his behavior ever since I gave birth to our first child had been shocking and disappointing to me. Our baby has recently been having trouble sleeping, and I have been the only one getting up literally every single time the baby wakes up. I sat my husband down and told him very honestly how tired I was, and that I needed support from him, especially while our baby was going through this restless period. He said that I should have expected this from a newborn, but he would try to help more either way. This only lasted about a week. He did start waking up to comfort the baby, but he just sort of stopped doing it after a week. I would always try to wake him up and ask him to go check on her, but he just grumbled and put a pillow over his head to better ignore me. He was starting to make me feel so alone, and I ended up asking advice from both my own mom and my mother-in-law. Both of them were very supportive, and both seemed upset when I told them about my husband's neglect. My mother-in-law actually called my husband the next day and chewed him out, telling him he needed to step up and take care of his child. It was her words towards him that really snapped him into action, and my husband started waking up every night for the baby and just generally watching her more often and actually giving me breaks to relax from childcare. My husband worked and told me to quit my job when I got pregnant, so I was home with the screaming baby 24/7, and I really appreciated that he had started to take her off my hands so I could have some time for myself again, even if it was just an hour or two here or there. Well, I guess it was all a pipe dream, because after only about 3 weeks of my husband actually watching the baby, he freaked out one night when the baby started crying and screamed at the top of his lungs that he was tired of this shit. His booming yell only made the baby start crying more, and he followed me into the baby's nursery while I tried to comfort her, still yelling. He called me lazy and said he was sick and tired of babysitting our little brat, and that this was a wife's duty, not his, and he had no place watching the baby this much. He said that I knew what I was signing up for when I got pregnant, and I was unreasonable to expect this much help from him. I didn't even try and argue with him. I just cried and fed my baby while trying to tune him out as he yelled and yelled at us in the middle of the night. I slept in the baby's room that night. It was the first time I ever felt scared of my husband. I resent him more every day, and I'm starting to think I made a huge mistake having children with this man. Well, it only took a little while longer for my fears to be concerned, but there's no going back now. The days after that night blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and fear. I moved Skylar's bassinet into the nursery permanently and started sleeping on the small daybed we'd bought for nursing. Every time I heard Jasper's footsteps in the hallway, my whole body tensed. He'd stand outside the door sometimes, just breathing heavily, before stomping back to our bedroom. During the day, he acted like nothing had happened. He'd leave for work without saying goodbye, come home late, and disappear into his home office. The few times we crossed paths in the kitchen, he'd look through me like I wasn't even there. I'd make dinner, leave his plate on the counter, and retreat back to the nursery with Skylar. My mother called every day, checking in. She could hear the exhaustion in my voice getting worse. "Marina, honey, you need to come stay with us for a while," she said during one call. I held the phone between my shoulder and ear while bouncing Skylar, who was fussing again. "I can't, Mom. Jasper would—" I stopped myself. Would what? The truth was, I didn't know what he'd do if I tried to leave, and that terrified me more than staying. Would what, Marina? Her voice sharpened. What would he do? I changed Skylar's diaper with shaking hands, avoiding the question. Nothing. I need to figure things out here. Beth, Jasper's mother, showed up unannounced 3 days later. I opened the door holding Skylar, who was mid-cry, and Beth's face immediately crumpled. She took in my unwashed hair, the formula stains on my shirt, the dark circles under my eyes. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. She gently took Skylar from my arms. "When's the last time you showered? Ate a real meal?" I couldn't remember. Time had become meaningless, marked only by Skylar's feeding schedule and Jasper's work hours. Beth settled Skylar with practiced ease, and within minutes, my daughter was calm. "Go shower," Beth commanded. "I'll watch her. Take as long as you need." Under the hot water, I cried for the first time since that night, real body-shaking sobs that I'd been holding back. When I finally emerged, Beth had Skylar sleeping peacefully in her arms and was heating up soup on the stove. "Sit," she said, not looking at me. "Eat." I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where Jasper and I used to have breakfast together, back when I thought our age difference meant he was mature and wise. Now I realized it just meant he'd had more time to perfect his mask. "He's always been like this," Beth said quietly, still facing the stove. "Even as a child. Charming when he wanted something, cruel when he didn't get his way." I thought. I hoped having a family would change him. She turned around and I saw tears in her eyes. "I should have warned you. When he told me he was dating an intern, someone so young, I should have said something. But you seemed so happy, and I wanted to believe he'd grown up." The soup burned my throat going down, but I kept eating. Skylar stirred in Beth's arms, making small noises. Beth adjusted her position expertly, and Skylar settled again. His father was the same way, Beth continued. Swept me off my feet when I was 19. By the time I realized what he really was, I had 2 kids and nowhere to go. It took me 15 years to leave. She looked directly at me then. Don't wait 15 years, Marina. After Beth left, I found myself pacing the nursery with Skylar. She was actually calm for once, looking up at me with those big eyes that were starting to turn brown like her father's. The thought made my stomach turn. Would she grow up to be like him, or would she be his next victim? That night, Jasper came home earlier than usual. I heard him in the kitchen, slamming cabinets. My whole body went rigid. Skylar must have sensed my fear because she started whimpering. I tried to soothe her, but it was too late. Her whimpers turned to cries. Jasper's footsteps thundered up the stairs. He threw open the nursery door so hard it bounced off the wall. Can't you keep her quiet for 5 fucking minutes? He snarled. I turned my back to him, shielding Skylar with my body. She's a baby, Jasper. Babies cry. Don't get smart with me. His voice was low, dangerous. You think you're so special because my mother came by? She called me at work, you know. Told me I need to step up. Like I haven't been working my A's off to provide for you two. Skylar's cries got louder. I bounced her gently, humming under my breath, trying to ignore him, but he grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. Skylar shrieked at the sudden movement. Look at me when I'm talking to you, he said through gritted teeth. His fingers dug into my shoulder. You wanted this baby so badly. You begged me for it, and now you can't even handle the basic responsibility of keeping her quiet. I never begged you for anything, I said, finding my voice. We decided together. We? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean you decided, and I went along with it because I thought you'd be a competent mother. Clearly, I was wrong. He released my shoulder with a shove. I stumbled but kept my grip on Skylar, who was now screaming. Jasper covered his ears dramatically. I'm going out, he announced. And when I come back, I better not hear a single sound from this room. He slammed the door behind him. I heard his car peel out of the driveway minutes later. I sank into the rocking chair, holding Skylar close. She was still crying, but softer now, picking up on my exhaustion. It's okay, baby girl, I whispered. Mommy's going to figure this out, I promise. I thought back to when Jasper and I first started dating, how he'd wait for me after my internship hours with flowers, how he'd take me to fancy restaurants I couldn't afford on my intern salary, how he'd tell me I was mature for my age and not like other girls. I'd felt so special, chosen by this successful, established man. Now I understood. He hadn't chosen me because I was special. He'd chosen me because I was young, inexperienced, and easy to control. The flowers, the dinners, the compliments, they were all part of the trap. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Offer still stands. Guest room is ready whenever you need it. I stared at the message for a long time. Leaving felt impossible. Where would I go? How would I support Skylar? Jasper had insisted I quit my job when I got pregnant. Said he'd take care of everything. Now I had no income, no recent work experience, and a baby who depended on me. But staying felt impossible too. Each day I could feel myself disappearing a little more. The girl who'd walked into that office 5 years ago, bright-eyed and full of dreams, was almost gone. In her place was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who flinched at footsteps and slept in a nursery out of fear. Skylar finally dozed off in my arms. I stood carefully and placed her in the crib, holding my breath until I was sure she'd stay asleep. Then I crept to the closet and pulled out the diaper bag. At the very bottom, hidden under burp cloths and extra onesies, was an envelope. Inside was cash, not much. Just what I'd managed to save from the grocery money over the past few weeks. It wasn't enough to leave. Not yet, but it was a start. I heard Jasper's car in the driveway and quickly shoved the envelope back in its hiding spot. He was home earlier than expected. My hands shook as I arranged the diaper bag to look undisturbed. His footsteps were unsteady on the stairs. He'd been drinking. He pushed open the nursery door without knocking. His eyes were bloodshot, and he swayed slightly. She asleep? He slurred. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. Keep it that way. He pointed a finger at me. And you. Stop calling my mother. Stop calling your mother. Stop making me look like a bad husband. I didn't. Shut up. He leaned against the doorframe. You know what your problem is, Marina? You're ungrateful. I gave you everything. Nice house, no need to work, a baby like you wanted, and this is how you repay me? By turning everyone against me? I wanted to argue, to point out that I'd never asked to quit my job, that the baby had been a mutual decision, that I wasn't turning anyone against him. He was doing that himself, but I knew better. Arguing with him when he was like this would only make things worse. I'm sorry, I said instead, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Yeah, you should be. We're done with this nonsense, you hear me? No more complaints. No more calling mommy. You're going to be the wife I married, not this. He waved his hand at me dismissively. Pathetic mess. He stumbled back to our bedroom. I waited until I heard his snores before I finally exhaled. My phone lit up with another text, this time from Beth. I'm here if you need anything, day or night. I deleted both messages. If Jasper checked my phone and saw them, it would only make things worse. But I memorized the words, held them close like a lifeline. I wasn't completely alone. Not yet. Skylar stirred in her crib, making soft sounds but not quite waking. I watched her sleep, this tiny perfect person who deserved so much better than this. She deserved a father who loved her, not one who called her a brat. She deserved a mother who wasn't terrified in her own home. I'm going to get us out of here, I whispered to her sleeping form. I don't know how yet, but I will. I promise. The house settled into silence around us. Somewhere down the hall, Jasper snored. Outside, a car passed by, its headlights briefly illuminating the nursery walls. Everything looked so normal from the outside. A suburban house with a nice car in the driveway. A successful man, his young wife, their new baby. The American dream. Nobody could see the prison bars. The next morning, Jasper left without a word. I watched from the nursery window as his car disappeared down the street, then finally allowed myself to breathe. Skylar was still sleeping, giving me a rare moment of quiet. I used it to check the envelope again. $63. At this rate, it would take months to save enough for even a cheap motel room. My phone rang. Mom again. I almost didn't answer, but the isolation was crushing me. How are you doing, sweetheart? Her voice was carefully neutral, but I could hear the worry underneath. Fine, I lied, watching Skylar's chest rise and fall in her crib. Just tired. Marina, she paused. Your father and I have been talking. We want to help. Whatever you need. Money, a place to stay, anything. My throat tightened. Mom, I can't. Yes, you can. You're our daughter. Skylar is our granddaughter. We're not going to stand by and watch you suffer. Before I could respond, I heard the front door slam. My blood froze. Jasper never came home during the day. I have to go, I whispered, hanging up before she could protest. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. The nursery door flew open, and there he stood, face twisted with rage. In his hand was a credit card statement. $40 at Target? He waved the paper at me. What the fuck did you buy for $40? Diapers, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. And formula. Skylar needed. I don't give a shit what she needed. His shout woke Skylar, who immediately started crying. You think money grows on trees? You think I work my A's off so you can blow it on whatever you want? I picked up Skylar, trying to calm her while my hands shook. It was just basic supplies, Jasper. Things she needs. He crossed the room in 2 strides, getting in my face. I could smell coffee and something sour on his breath. Basic supplies? I'll tell you what's basic. You keeping this house clean, keeping that baby quiet, and not spending my money without permission. Skylar's cries intensified. I turned away from him, bouncing her gently, but he grabbed my arm and yanked me back around. Don't you dare turn your back on me, he hissed. You want to act like a spoiled brat? Fine. No more credit card. No more cash. You need something. You ask me first. He released my arm with a shove. I stumbled, clutching Skylar tighter. She was screaming now, her little face red and scrunched. And shut her up, he added, heading for the door. I'm working from home today, and if I hear one more sound from this room, you'll both regret it. The door slammed. I sank into the rocking chair, tears streaming down my face as I tried to soothe Skylar. No credit card meant no way to buy food, diapers, formula, no way to save money, no way out. It took an hour to get Skylar calm again. I nursed her even though my milk was starting to dry up from stress, supplementing with the last of the formula. We were down to maybe 2 days worth. After that, I didn't know what I'd do. The rest of the day passed in terrified silence. I could hear Jasper moving around downstairs, taking calls, typing aggressively on his laptop. Every time Skylar made a sound, I rushed to quiet her, my heart racing. By evening, we were both exhausted. Jasper appeared in the doorway as I was changing Skylar's diaper. I ordered pizza, he said, his tone casual like the morning hadn't happened. It'll be here in 20 minutes. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. And Marina? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I meant what I said about the money. From now on, you submit a list of what you need, and I'll decide what's necessary. Understood? Yes, I whispered. Good girl. He left, and I heard him on the phone downstairs, laughing with someone from work like he didn't have a care in the world. That night, after Jasper had gone to bed, I called Beth. She answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. Marina, is everything okay? No, I admitted, keeping my voice barely above a whisper. He took my credit card. Says I have to ask permission to buy anything now, even diapers. Silence on the other end. Then, that bastard, just like his father. Beth, I don't know what to do. I have maybe 2 days of formula left and I'll bring some tomorrow, she interrupted. And diapers, whatever you need. I'll say I'm visiting my granddaughter, which is true. He'll be furious if he finds out you're helping me. Let him be furious. He's my son, but that doesn't mean I'll stand by while he does this to you. She paused. Marina, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Start documenting everything. Write down dates, times, what he says and does. Take pictures of any bruises or marks. You'll need evidence when you leave. When. The word came out as barely a breath. Yes, when. Not if. When. Because you are going to leave, Marina. For your sake and Skylar's. After we hung up, I found an old notebook in the closet and started writing. Every incident I could remember, starting with when he first refused to help with nighttime feedings. My hand cramped as I filled page after page, the words blurring through my tears. The next morning, Jasper left for work without a word. An hour later, Beth arrived with bags of supplies. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. Oh, honey, she murmured. You look worse than last time. I broke down completely, sobbing into her shoulder while Skylar watched from her bouncer. Beth held me until the tears stopped, then guided me to the couch. Show me the notebook, she said gently. I retrieved it from its hiding spot behind Skylar's dresser. Beth read in silence, her face growing paler with each page. This is worse than I thought, she said finally. Marina, you need to leave. Today. I can't, I said. I have no money, nowhere to go. You have your parents. You have me. She grabbed my hands. I'll give you money, whatever you need. He'll come after me. He'll take Skylar. No judge in their right mind would give him custody after reading this. She tapped the notebook. This is evidence of abuse, Marina. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, and it's escalating. She was right. I knew she was right, but the fear was paralyzing. I'll think about it, I said finally. Beth looked like she wanted to argue but didn't. Instead, she helped me hide the supplies she'd brought, tucking them behind boxes in the closet where Jasper wouldn't look. Before she left, she pressed something into my hand, $500 in cash. Emergency money, she said. Hide it well. And Marina, my offer stands. Day or night, you call me when you're ready to leave and I'll come get you. That afternoon, Skylar was fussier than usual. Nothing I did seemed to help. She cried through 2 feedings, 3 diaper changes, and an hour of rocking. By the time Jasper came home, we were both at our breaking point. He stormed into the nursery, face already red. What did I say about keeping her quiet? She's having a bad day, I said, exhausted. I've tried everything. Try harder. He loomed over us. Or maybe you're doing it on purpose. Is that it? Trying to pass me off? No, Jasper, I would never. Shut up. He grabbed the arm of the rocking chair, trapping me. You know what I think? I think you like the attention. Poor Marina. So tired, so overwhelmed. Everyone feels sorry for Marina. Skylar's cries reached a new pitch. Without warning, Jasper reached down and yanked her from my arms. No! I lunged for her, but he stepped back, holding Skylar at arm's length like she was something disgusting. Maybe if you can't shut her up, I will, he said. Jasper, please, give her back. He shook her. Not hard, but enough to make her cries turn to shrieks of terror. Shut upper, you little brat. Something inside me snapped. I launched myself at him, clawing at his arms. Give me my baby. He shoved me with one hand, sending me sprawling, but the movement made him loosen his grip and instinct took over. I scrambled forward and snatched Skylar from him, curling my body around her. You crazy bitch! He grabbed my hair, yanking my head back. You want to attack me? In my own house? You were hurting her. I gasped through the pain. I was teaching her a lesson. He released my hair with a violent push. Both of you need to learn some respect. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I heard him in our bedroom, throwing things around, cursing. Then his car starting, tires squealing as he left. I examined Skylar with shaking hands. She seemed okay physically, just terrified. Her little body trembled as she cried, and I cried with her. I'm so sorry, baby, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Mommy's going to fix this. I promise. I grabbed my phone and called Beth. I'm ready, I said when she answered. I need to leave. Now. I'm on my way, she said immediately. Pack light, just essentials. I flew around the nursery, shoving diapers, clothes, and formula into the diaper bag. The notebook went in too, along with Beth's emergency money and my pathetic savings. Skylar watched from her crib, still whimpering. My phone rang. Jasper. I stared at it, paralyzed. If I didn't answer, he'd know something was wrong. If I did. Hello? My voice shook. Where are you? He sounded hammered. In the nursery. With Skylar. Good. Stay there. I'll be home in an hour, and we're going to have a talk about your behavior. Okay, I said, even as I continued packing. And Marina, if you're thinking about doing something stupid, remember, I know where your parents live. I know where you'd go. Don't make this worse than it has to be. The line went dead. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. A text from Beth. 5 minutes away. I grabbed the packed bag and Skylar heading downstairs. Through the window, I could see Beth's car approaching. But as I reached for the door handle, I froze. What if Jasper was right? What if he did come after us? What if he tried to take Skylar? What if leaving made everything worse? Beth's car pulled into the driveway. She got out, saw me through the window, and her face set with determination. She marched to the door and knocked firmly. Marina, open the door, she called. We don't have much time. I looked down at Skylar, who had finally stopped crying and was gazing up at me with those trusting brown eyes. She deserved better than this. Better than a father who shook her, who called her names, who saw her as a burden. Better than a mother too scared to protect her. I opened the door. Good girl, Beth said, taking the bag from me. Let's go. But as we stepped outside, headlights swept across the driveway. My blood turned to ice. Jasper's car screeched to a stop, blocking Beth's vehicle. He got out, stumbling slightly, his face twisted with rage. Going somewhere? He asked, his voice deadly quiet. She's coming with me, Beth said firmly. Step aside, Jasper. My wife isn't going anywhere. He moved toward us. And neither is my daughter. She's not your property, Beth snapped. Neither of them are. Get in your car and leave, mother. This doesn't concern you. It absolutely concerns me when my son is abusing his family. The word abuse made something flicker across Jasper's face. For a moment, he looked almost vulnerable. Then his expression hardened. Abuse? He laughed bitterly. Is that what she told you? I work 60 hours a week to provide for them, and I'm the abuser? You shook Skylar, I said quietly. You hurt her. I disciplined her. There's a difference. She's 4 months old, and already spoiled rotten because you can't do your job properly. He stepped closer. But we can discuss that inside. Marina, get in the house. Now. I clutched Skylar tighter. Number. The word hung in the air between us. Jasper's face went from red to purple. What did you say? I said no. My voice was stronger now. I'm leaving, Jasper, and I'm taking Skylar with me. Like hell you are. He lunged forward, but Beth stepped between us. Don't you dare, she warned. I've stood by and watched you turn into your father for too long. It ends now. You don't know what you're talking about, Jasper snarled. Don't I? The control, the anger, the entitlement. You're just like him. And I'll be damned if I let you do to Marina what he did to me. They stared at each other, mother and son, while I stood frozen with Skylar. Then Jasper's shoulders sagged. Fine, he said. Go. But you're not taking my daughter. Yes, I am, I said. And if you try to stop me, I'll call the police. I have documentation of everything, Jasper. Every cruel word, every time you refused to help, every threat, including what happened tonight. His eyes widened slightly. You wouldn't. Try me. We stood there in the driveway, a twisted tableau. Skylar started to fuss, and I bounced her gently, never taking my eyes off Jasper. Finally, he stepped aside. This isn't over, he said quietly. You're my wife. She's my daughter. You can't just walk away. Watch me, I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it. Beth helped me get Skylar into her car seat, then drove us away. I didn't look back, but I could feel Jasper watching until we turned the corner. You did the right thing, Beth said softly. I nodded, unable to speak through the tears. Skylar had fallen asleep, exhausted from the chaos. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with text after text from Jasper, but I didn't look at them. Beth drove us to my parents' house. They were waiting on the porch, Mom already crying before we even got out of the car. Dad took one look at me and wrapped me in the tightest hug. You're home now, he said gruffly. Both of you. You're safe. But even as I settled into my childhood bedroom with Skylar, I knew it wasn't that simple. Jasper wouldn't just let us go. The texts kept coming, alternating between rage and pleading. Voicemails filled with threats and promises. I'm sorry, one said. I didn't mean it. Come home and we'll work it out. You're going to regret this, said another. No court will give you custody. I'll prove you're an unfit mother. Please, Marina. I love you. I love our daughter. Don't do this to our family. You can't hide forever. I know where you are. I showed them all to my parents, who immediately said we should file a restraining order. But the thought of facing Jasper in court, of having to relive relive everything made me feel sick. Just give me a few days, I begged, to figure things out. Those few days passed in a blur. Skylar adjusted to the new environment surprisingly well, seeming calmer without the constant tension. I started to remember what it felt like to not be afraid all the time. Mom took time off work to help with Skylar, giving me a chance to shower, eat real meals, even nap. Dad installed new locks and a security system, just in case. They both tried to hide their anger at Jasper, but I could see it simmering beneath their careful words. Beth visited daily, bringing more supplies and checking on us. She also brought news. He's been calling me nonstop, she said on the third day, demanding I tell him where you are, even though he already knows. He's drinking heavily. Missed 2 days of work. Good, I said, then felt guilty. Despite everything, part of me still worried about him. Don't, Beth said, reading my expression. Don't feel bad for him. He made his choices. On the 4th night, I woke to Skylar crying. As I picked her up, I heard something outside. Footsteps on gravel. My blood froze. A shadow passed by the window, then another. I grabbed my phone, about to call 911, when I heard a familiar voice. Marina, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Jasper. He was here. I clutched Skylar against my chest, my heart hammering so hard I was sure she could feel it. Dad appeared in the doorway, already dressed despite the late hour. He must have heard Jasper too. Call the police, he said quietly, moving toward the window. Wait, I whispered. Something in Jasper's tone wasn't right. It wasn't the angry, demanding voice from his messages. It sounded broken. Dad shook his head firmly. Marina, no, you're not going out there. I'm not. But maybe if I talk to him through the window. Absolutely not. Mom appeared behind Dad, her phone already in her hand. I'm calling 911. Marina, please. Jasper's voice came again, closer now. I just want to see her. Just once. Skylar squirmed in my arms, making small noises. I bounced her gently, trying to keep her calm while my mind raced. The notebook with all my documentation was in the diaper bag by the bed. My phone had dozens of his threatening messages. We had evidence. We had support. But something made me hesitate. 2 minutes, I called out, surprising everyone, including myself. You have 2 minutes and you stay outside. Marina, Mom hissed, but I was already moving to the window, keeping well back from it. Through the glass, I could see Jasper standing in the driveway. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, swaying slightly. Beth had been right about the drinking. I fucked up, he said, loud enough to be heard through the closed window. I know I fucked up. Dad positioned himself between me and the window. That's enough. You need to leave. I'm talking to my wife, Jasper snapped, some of his usual anger flashing through. Ex-wife, I said, the words coming out stronger than I felt. Or soon to be. His face crumpled. Marina, no. We can work this out. I'll get help. Therapy, anger management, whatever you want. You shook our daughter, I said. You called her a brat. You screamed at her for crying. I was stressed. Work has been… Stop. My voice cut through his excuses. Just stop. You don't get to blame work. You don't get to blame stress. You chose to hurt us. He stepped closer to the house and Dad immediately moved to the door. That's close enough, Dad warned. I want to see Skylar, Jasper said. She's my daughter. I have rights. You have nothing, I said. You gave up any rights when you put your hands on her. I barely touched her. You're being dramatic like always. This is what you do, Marina. You blow everything out of proportion. There it was, the real Jasper, emerging from beneath the fake remorse. I felt oddly calm, like something inside me had finally clicked into place. Your 2 minutes are up, I said. I'm not leaving without seeing her. Mom had already dialed 911. I could hear her giving our address in a low voice. Jasper must have heard too because his expression shifted from pleading to rage. You called the cops? Seriously? I came here to talk? To work things out? And you called the fucking cops? He kicked at the gravel, sending stones flying. One hit the window with a sharp crack. Skylar startled and began crying. Now look what you did, Jasper shouted. She's crying because of you, because you're keeping her from her father. This is kidnapping, Marina. I'll have you arrested. I'll take her away from you. Go ahead and try, Dad said, stepping onto the porch. But right now, you need to leave. The police are on their way. This is your fault. Jasper pointed at Dad. You and your wife filling Marina's head with poison. She was fine until you got involved. She was dying, Mom said, joining Dad on the porch. Our daughter was withering away and you were culling her. Drama. Always drama with this family. Jasper laughed, but it was ugly, bitter. No wonder Marina turned out so weak. I saw Dad's fists clench, but Mom put a hand on his arm. In the distance, sirens wailed. Jasper heard them too. This isn't over, he said, backing toward his car. I'll get a lawyer, a good one. I'll prove you're all crazy. Marina can't even take care of herself, let alone a baby. The only thing you'll prove, Beth's voice came from the darkness, is that you're exactly like your father. She stepped into the porch light, and Jasper froze. Mom, what are you doing here? I've been staying nearby, Beth said calmly, in case Marina needed me, in case you did exactly what you're doing now. You're taking her side? Your own son? My son is a bully and an abuser, Beth said, just like his father was. I failed you, Jasper. I stayed too long, let you see too much, but I won't let you do to Skylar what was done to you. I'm nothing like him, Jasper snarled. You're everything like him. The control, the anger, the way you treat your family like property. Even standing here in the middle of the night, terrorizing your wife and child, exactly what he used to do to us. The sirens were getting closer. Jasper looked between his mother and his car, clearly torn. Go, Beth said. Leave now, and maybe this doesn't have to get worse. Stay, and you'll be arrested. Your choice. He stood there for another moment, swaying. Then he spat on the ground and stumbled to his car. You're all going to regret this, he said. Especially you, Marina. You're nothing without me. Nothing. His car roared to life, tires spinning on the gravel as he backed out. He nearly clipped the mailbox in his hurry to leave. We watched his taillights disappear just as the first police car turned onto our street. The next hour was a blur of questions documentations and paperwork. I showed the officers the notebook, the texts, the voicemails. They took photos of the bruises on my arm from where Jasper had grabbed me. Skylar, exhausted from the chaos, fell asleep in Mom's arms while I gave my statement. "We'll file a report," one officer said. "You should look into getting a restraining order first thing tomorrow. Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" "She's staying here," Dad said firmly. "We've already upgraded the security." After the police left, we all sat in the living room, too wired to sleep. Beth made tea while Mom rocked Skylar. "I'm sorry," I said to Beth, "about Jasper, about everything." "Don't you dare apologize," she said. "This is on him, and on me, for not protecting him from his father when he was young. You did what you could," I said. "Not enough, but I can do better now. For you and Skylar." She pulled out a business card. "This is my lawyer. She handled my divorce from Jasper's father. She's expecting your call." I took the card with shaking hands. "I can't afford." "I'm paying," Beth said. "No arguments. Consider it 25 years of overdue child support from my ex-husband." The next morning, I woke to find Dad installing cameras around the property. Mom had taken another day off work and was in the kitchen with Skylar making breakfast. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life. My phone had 37 missed calls from Jasper and twice as many texts. I didn't read them. Instead, I called Beth's lawyer. Margaret Whitman had a voice like steel wrapped in velvet. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "First things first," she said. "We're filing for an emergency restraining order today. Can you be at the courthouse by noon?" "Yes," I said, even though the thought made me nauseous. "Good. Bring your documentation. All of it. And Marina, don't communicate with him. Not a single text, call, nothing. Everything goes through me now." The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing footsteps. Margaret met me at the entrance, a sharp-dressed woman in her 50s with eyes that missed nothing. She guided me through the process with practiced efficiency. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes, read through my documentation carefully. When she got to the part about Jasper shaking Skylar, her expression hardened. "Temporary restraining order granted," she said. "He's to stay at least 500 feet away from you, your daughter, and your parents' residence. The hearing for a permanent order is in 2 weeks." Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. It was real now, official. "This is just the beginning," Margaret warned. "He'll likely fight the divorce, custody, everything. Men like him always do." She was right. The next week brought a flurry of legal documents. Jasper had hired his own lawyer, Theodore Bancroft, who had a reputation for being ruthless. The divorce petition painted me as an unstable woman who'd abandoned her marital home and was poisoning a child against her father. "Standard tactics," Margaret said when I called her in tears. "Don't let it rattle you. We have documentation, we have witnesses, we have the truth." Beth became our fiercest ally. She provided statements about Jasper's behavior, even digging up old police reports from when his father had been arrested for domestic violence. "I kept everything," she told me. "I knew someday it might matter." Skylar, oblivious to the storm swirling around her, began to thrive. Without the constant tension, she started sleeping better, crying less. Her smiles came easier, her laughter more frequent. Mom documented everything, every milestone, every happy moment. "Evidence that she's doing well in your care," she said, taking another video of Skylar giggling during tummy time. The restraining order hearing arrived faster than I expected. I dressed carefully, trying to look like the competent mother I was fighting to prove I could be. Margaret had coached me on what to expect, but nothing really prepared me for seeing Jasper again. He looked different, clean, shaven, wearing an expensive suit, every inch the successful businessman. He didn't look at me once. Theodore Bancroft argued that the restraining order was unnecessary, that it was keeping a loving father from his child. He painted the incident with Skylar as a misunderstanding, blown out of proportion by a hormonal postpartum mother. Then Margaret stood up. She presented everything methodically: the notebook, the texts, the voicemails, Beth's testimony about Jasper's pattern of behavior, the police reports from both the recent incident and his father's history. "This is not about a single moment of frustration," she said. "This is about a pattern of escalating abuse that put both Marina and infant Skylar in danger." When it was my turn to testify, my voice shook at first. But as I told my story, something shifted. I found my strength in the truth of what had happened. I talked about the isolation, the financial control, the verbal abuse. I described the night he shook Skylar, how her terrified screams still haunted me. I explained how I'd slept in the nursery not for convenience, but from fear. Jasper's lawyer tried to trip me up on cross-examination, but Margaret had prepared me well. I stuck to the facts, didn't let him bait me into emotional responses. Then came the surprise witness. Margaret called a woman named Margarita Hendricks to the stand. I didn't recognize her, but Jasper went pale. Margarita was his ex-girlfriend from before me. She testified about similar patterns of control and abuse, including an incident where he'd grabbed her by the throat during an argument. She'd never pressed charges, too scared and ashamed. "I heard about this case," she said, looking directly at me. I couldn't stay silent knowing he was doing it again. The judge's decision was swift. Permanent restraining order granted. Mr. Jasper Williams is to have no contact with Marina Williams or Skylar Williams for a period of 2 years, at which point this order may be reviewed. Jasper exploded. "This is bullshit. That's my daughter. You can't keep her from me." His lawyer tried to calm him, but Jasper shoved him away. "Marina, you're going to regret this. You hear me? You're nothing. You're nobody. I made you." The bailiff moved toward him, and Theodore grabbed Jasper's arm, physically dragging him from the courtroom. His shouts echoed down the hallway until the doors closed. "Well," Margaret said dryly, "that certainly helped our case." The divorce proceedings began immediately after. Jasper fought everything: custody, asset division, even child support. He claimed I'd been hiding money, that I was an unfit mother, that I'd cheated on him. Every accusation was more desperate than the last. But we had built an ironclad case. The restraining order worked in our favor. His behavior at the hearing had been documented. Margarita's testimony opened the door for Margaret to establish a pattern of abuse. 3 months into the proceedings, Jasper made a mistake. He tried to approach me at the grocery store, violating the restraining order. I saw him coming and immediately called 911, then Margaret. He was arrested in the parking lot, screaming about his rights as a father while being put in handcuffs. The security footage showed him following me through the store before I noticed him. Gift wrapped, Margaret said when she saw the footage. No judge will give him unsupervised custody now. She was right. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that night in the driveway. I got full custody of Skylar, with Jasper receiving supervised visitation once a month if he completed anger management and parenting classes. He was ordered to pay child support and alimony. He never showed up for a single visitation, never completed the classes. The child support came sporadically at first, then stopped entirely. Margaret filed for wage garnishment. "Let me handle it," she said. "You focus on rebuilding your life." And I did. Slowly, carefully, one day at a time. Mom watched Skylar while I job hunted. My 5-year gap in employment made things difficult, but eventually, I found an entry-level position at a marketing firm. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Skylar grew from a baby into a toddler, reaching each milestone surrounded by love and safety. Her first word was Gamma, for Grandma. Her first steps were toward Beth, who cried happy tears. "She's nothing like him," Beth said one day, watching Skylar share her snack with another toddler at the park. "She has your heart." A year after the divorce, I was serving Skylar lunch when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Marina Williams?" The voice was professional, clinical. "Yes, this is Dr. Reeves at St. Mary's Hospital. I'm calling about Jasper Williams. You're listed as his emergency contact." My blood ran cold. What happened? "He was in a car accident, hammered driving. It's serious." I sat down hard, Skylar looking at me with concern. "Mama okay?" "Mama's okay, baby," I said automatically. To the doctor, "How serious?" "He's in surgery now. We weren't sure if you wanted to be notified, given the circumstances, but thank you for calling," I said. "Please remove me as his emergency contact. His mother is Beth Williams." I gave her number. After I hung up, I sat there feeling nothing. No sadness, no anger, no satisfaction, just empty. Beth called an hour later. "He's stable," she said. "Broken ribs, internal bleeding, but he'll survive." The other driver was okay. "Thank God." "That's good," I said, meaning it. I didn't want anyone hurt, not even him. "He's going to prison," Beth continued. "Third DUI, apparently. He hid the first 2. We were quiet for a moment. In the background, I could hear Skylar playing with blocks, humming to herself. "Are you okay?" Beth asked. "Yeah," I said, surprised to find it was true. "We're okay." And we were. It had taken restraining orders and divorce papers and court hearings and therapy sessions I haven't mentioned. It had taken the village of support around us and more strength than I knew I had. It had taken accepting that the man I'd fallen in love with at 20 had never really existed. But we were okay. More than okay. We were free. That night, I tucked Skylar into her toddler bed in her own room. A real room, not a nursery that doubled as a refuge. She looked up at me with those brown eyes, so like her father's but filled with joy instead of anger. "Love you, Mama," she said, already drowsy. "Love you too, baby girl. Sweet dreams." I stood in her doorway for a moment, watching her drift off to sleep. No tension in her little body, no fear of footsteps in the hallway, just peace. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, probably Jasper from the hospital. I deleted it without reading. Margaret would handle whatever legal nonsense came next. I had a job interview tomorrow for a better position. Mom was going to watch Skylar. Dad had signed us up for a mommy and me swim class. Beth was coming for Sunday dinner. Life was moving forward. The scared girl who'd been charmed by an older man's attention was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd fought for her child and won, who'd learned the difference between love and control, who'd discovered her own strength in the darkest moments. Some nights I still double-checked the locks. Some days, a certain tone of voice made me flinch. Recovery wasn't a straight line. But every morning I woke up in a house filled with real love, not fear masquerading as protection. Skylar deserved that. I deserved that. We were free. Natasha.